Hi everyone, this is Kayla Coleman, and this video is about an introduction to Google Forms. So the first thing I'm going to show you is where to locate Google Forms on their website. You have to go to the waffle in the top right hand corner. Click that waffle and you'll see all the different applications that you can use with Google. Scroll down the applications until you find one that says Forms on it. You're going to click Forms. And when the forms site pops up, you have an option, all these different templates that you could select from. You want to use one of those templates, you're more than welcome to, but I prefer just to use a blank template and build from the ground up. So I'm going to click a blank template. Before we know what to title the form and what to do with the form, we have to decide what type of form we are going to do. So I'm going to show you a few different types of forms that are options. There's so many options from beginner to advanced. I'm showing you more beginner things now. If there's time at the end, I'll show you some more advanced things that you can do. So one option could be to have a weekly check-in sheet with your students. You know, we have to keep up that constant communication with our students and parents. So this is just one thing that you can use just to check in with your students once a week. If you want to do it more often, like once a day, you could do a daily check-in sheet. But I just put together a weekly check-in sheet for right now. So students can put their name, the date, so we can keep track of when they turn in their forms. Are all of your assignments turned in? Yes, no, or I don't know. Could you please tell me? This lets me know if they know what they have turned in and what they don't have turned in. What went well this week? What didn't go so well this week? Is there anything you would like me to know? And then the last two questions is pretty much just me asking the student, would you like to set up a Google Meet with me so that you have more one-on-one time that I can help you through a problem or answer any questions that you may have. So they can set up a date and a time to meet with me, and I'll set up a Google Meet for them to discuss whatever they need to discuss. So that's just one option. Another option coming back into school is you could have a get to know you type of survey to figure out how they did last year with NTI, what things worked, what things didn't, how they preferred to learn through NTI. And then you could just use other things like getting to know your students more just to be able to connect with them. Your typical get to know you survey. There are tons of surveys that you can look up online and you can incorporate that into a Google form. I just haven't done that part yet, but I'm planning to. So, another option is to do practice problems on Google Forms. And you can set this up to grade it for you or make it more easy to grade. And there's multiple options here. I'm just showing you a math slide because I'm a math teacher. Sorry, you're going to see a lot of math examples today. So this was one lesson that I did with them. I did a video lesson with them one day, and then the next 2 days I gave them this practice to work on. So we talked about points in the coordinate plane. I gave them a coordinate plane graph. And then I would ask them questions like, what is the ordered pair for point G? In which quadrant is point G located? So this was just basic coordinate plane. We talked about XY intercepts, XY axis. And then I had a little fun extra credit question for them at the end. So in this form, they were able to fill out the multiple choice question. If they got the question wrong, they had the option to go back and fix it. And I'm going to talk about those options. Like you can either make it like a quiz where if it's wrong, it's wrong, or if they want to go back and edit and fix the answer, they can. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So another option, you can do something like a scavenger hunt. If you like to do around the world or treasure quests or any scavenger hunts in your classroom, this is a good option for you to do with your kids through Google Forms. So I put a map in my Google form, and then I gave my students 10 clues to follow on the map. So clue number 1, they had to solve a decimal problem, and whatever the answer was, that's where they start on the map. So then when they go to clue 2, they figure out what the answer is and follow that next direction, and so on until they get to clue 10 and find where the hidden treasure is. And then they tell me where the treasure was located. There's multiple ways to do this. I just recently learned of a new way where students have to get clue 1 correct before they can go to clue 2 and get clue 2 correct before they go to clue 3. I don't have this form set up that way just yet, but that is an option in Google Forms. This is another one of those story modes. You can have the student choose path A or path B, and depending on what they picked, something different might happen in the story. Um, this is an escape room that I purchased a couple years ago. Most of the questions were on paper, so I'm going to have to change that, put the paper online. But this form is pretty much like the keys. They have to put the codes into the form, and they have to get the correct code for level 1 before they can go to level 2. Then they have to put the correct code in for level 2 before they go to level 3, and so on. This is the one that I purchased. They would answer the questions and use that little maze to figure out the code. And then they had a puzzle and a maze to work out here. So those are just types of forms that you can choose. You can also make those forms quizzes or tests. And today's form, I'm just going to show you guys types of questions. So I'm going to label this types of questions. And after you have created your title in this slot, you can click on the inside of the untitled form and it'll automatically change that for you. Same thing if you type it in here and then click that, it changes it for you there too. So you want a title in both places. If you want to put a form description on there, you can. We can talk about, like, you could put the different types of questions on there. Since I'm talking through them with you, I'm not going to type a description right now. So the first question that we're going to talk about is a short answer question. This drop-down menu in the right-hand corner is the menu that gives you the multiple types of questions that you can use in a Google form. So I'm just going to go from the top and go down. So first option is a short answer question. If you want a student to answer a short answer question, you'll ask a short answer question. Typically, they might have a 1 or 2 word response to it. If you want them to write like a sentence or a paragraph, you would want to do the paragraph option. So in this one, I'm just going to have the student put their name. Now, it is important for you to have a student put their name on your form, because if you don't and you leave it blank, you might end up getting, 100 responses that are all blank and you have no idea who did what. So make sure you have a name slot, or make sure in the settings that you select to collect their email addresses. You either want their email addresses or you want their name on your form. Otherwise, you're going to be very confused when you start getting responses in and you have no idea who turned those responses in. If you choose to do the name, I usually don't do the name. I usually just collect their email addresses. But if you choose to do the name as a question, you want to make that required. Any question that you want them to do 100% for sure, you have to click required. That way, they cannot submit the form if that question's not answered. You might want to click required for every single question that you include in your form so that they can't accidentally miss something. That's up to you. So that's just one example of a short answer question. A paragraph question. Oh, wait. When you want to add a new question, you're going to hit this plus sign on the left side and click add question, and it'll add a new question right below. If you need to drag the order around for some reason, you can do that. So for this second question, I'm going to do a paragraph question. In this paragraph question, say we want to ask the students to tell us a story of something awesome that happened over the summer. Tell me a story about something tell me a story about something awesome happened over summer. And then they can give me the story. You can also add more directions if you want to. Give me 5 sentences if you have a particular amount that you are looking for. Okay, so let's go on to, I'll make that required too. Let's go on to the next type of question. We're going to add a new question, and this is a multiple choice question. Say for this multiple choice question, you want to ask them something like, who was the first president of the United States? You could give them an option, Abraham Lincoln. You could give them another option, George Washington. Give them something like Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin. Or Donald Trump. Or Donald Trump. And then they have to select which one was the first president. Going to make that required. The next type of question, we're going to make a checkbox. So one reason you might want to use a checkbox question is if you are going to have multiple answers correct. You can do that with multiple choice too. They can select more than one, but checkboxes are something they're more familiar with having multiple answers in them. So I would leave multiple choice for one correct answer, check boxes for if you're looking for more than one correct answer. So one example of this is which of one example of this could be which of the following is considered a fruit? You could say option 1 could be carrot. Option 2, grape. Option 3, apples. Option 4, cucumbers. Option 5, tomatoes. Option 6, watermelon. Option 7, corn. You can have as many as you want or as few as you want. You might want to select on here to check all that apply if you have more than one answer. You may even say select 3 or select 2. However you want to ask the question, that's up to you. Real quickly, I just want to give you one other example of something that you can do. Say you want to ask a question that's similar to this with similar answer options, but you don't want to have to type it all out again. There is a duplicate button. This button right here is a duplicate. And if you duplicate that question, it gives you a second question identical to the first one. You might want to change it. Maybe instead of asking about a fruit, you can ask which would be considered a vegetable. And keep those answer choices the same, or you can change those answer choices. It's completely up to you. But duplicate can be helpful, especially if, say you're trying to duplicate was good for me last year when I was going over symbols like greater than, less than, or equal to. If I gave them two numbers and they had to figure out which number was greater than, less than, or equal to the other number, so I didn't have to type it out. All right, let's go on to the next thing. Let me talk about a few things that you can include in your questions. Say you want to add a question with an image in it. If you want to include an image in the question itself, you can go to this little picture box, click the picture box, and include an image. You can Google search an image and pull it straight from Google. You could get an image from Google Drive, from your photos, your camera. I'm going to get an image from my computer. So I'm going to browse. And I'm going to select my image and open. And it's going to put my image into the question. My question will be, how many commas do you see in this picture? I would leave it a short answer and then let them put whatever number they come up with. Or you could make it multiple choice and give them number options to pick from. I'm just going to leave it short answer. So you could choose any picture, ask a question about that picture. It could be a graph, it could be a map, it could be a picture of the solar system, it could be a picture of the periodic table, it could be a picture of anything. Ask a question about it. Another option would be to include pictures in your answer choices if you were doing something like multiple choice. So now I know our 6th grade students learn about the moon phases in science. So let's say they have to be able to identify what a waning crescent moon would look like. So I could ask them a question like, identify which image is an example of a waning crescent moon. And for option 1, I'm going to include a picture. So I'm going to go over here to the right where that picture icon is, where it says add image. I'm going to add an image. I have these images on my computer, but I could also pull up a Google image search and pull one off of Google. So I'm going to browse my computer, and here's a waning crescent moon. And that's my option 1. I'm going to add another option. I'll browse again and put another moon phase on there. Browse again. I'll put another moon phase on there. And I'd put one more. There are more moon phases than this, but you can choose more options. You can have as many options as you want in your multiple choice, but I prefer 4 or 5 options. If you do any options above that, you'd be better off with like a checkbox or a drop-down menu. The multiple choice grid and the checkbox grid is just a different way of setting up multiple choice questions or checkbox questions. I've not really used linear scale, and there is a date and time option, but I haven't really used that either. I used it in my form for them to set up a Google form time to meet. So that's putting an image in the questions. One final option and type of question that we're going to talk about. One final type of question we're going to talk about is putting a video into your Google form and asking a question about that video. There's not really an option to put the video into the question. So you're going to have to add the video after your last question. Let me get rid of that so it's not confusing. So one option is to include a video in your form and then ask a question after the video. There's not a place to put a video in the question, so you have to put a video right after your last question. So if you want to include a video, you come over here to the right and you're going to press Add Video. It's going to take you to a YouTube link. You can either look up the video or you can copy and paste the URL into this search box. One video that I use in my class is a vocabulary dividing fractions. You would look that up, select whatever video you want to use, and press select. It would put the video into, like right after the question, you could title it vocabulary dividing fractions video. And then when you add a question, you could say watch the video above and tell me the 3 main steps to dividing fractions. And I'll leave that open as paragraph. So they have to tell me the 3 steps in the video that it talks about. Okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about is how to make a form a quiz or a test. And you can make a form a quiz without it actually being a quiz. I generally make my assignments quizzes so that it grades it for me. And the kids can get automatic feedback when they turn in their assignments. And there are multiple settings that you can go through and you can pick through. And I'm going to talk to you about those settings. So, if you pull up your settings in the top right-hand corner, under General, here is where you could collect email addresses. If you do not want to put a name slot in your form, you can click Collect Email Addresses and you will get their emails. Generally, that's no problem with students because their email is their name. That's typically what I do. You can send them a response receipt if you want to. I usually just leave that alone. You can restrict it to users in Greenup County schools. I usually do that if it's a student survey or form, but if you decided to send a form out to parents, you would have to get rid of that because not all parents have a Greenup County school email. If it's a test or a quiz, you might want to limit one response so they take it once and that's it. If you want to give them multiple opportunities to take it a second time and get a better grade, you can leave that alone and they can take the form as many times as they want. But limit one response means they only take it once, so they can't go back in, they can't change it, they can't take it again. Another option would be edit after submit. Sometimes I give my students this option when they're working on practice problems. If they get a question wrong, they can go back and look at the question, figure out where the problem was, and edit their answer to try again, and then resubmit the test or resubmit the practice. I do that quite a bit with just practice problems. You can give them the option to see summary charts and text responses. I usually don't do that. That's up to you. That's something you can do. For presentation, you can give them the option of showing them the progress bar. That might help them pace themselves if they are timed. I would say a progress bar really won't do much for NTI. You can shuffle question order. Again, that's not really going to help a whole lot with NTI. That helps more in class if you are afraid that they might be looking at each other's screen. You can shuffle the question order so they're not all on the same question at the same time. And show link to submit another response. That's if you let them respond more than once. And you can change this confirmation message if you choose. Okay, now we're going to talk about making this a quiz. I make a lot of my forms quizzes so that it'll grade it for me. I'm going to click Make This a Quiz. The locked mode on Chromebooks is an option if you are if you want them to complete a quiz or a test without being able to go to another tab or another window. This locked mode keeps them on the test until they have to until they finish it. They can't just go back and forth from one tab to the other. This is supposed to help a lot with cheating. I'm not sure that this would help very much with NTI as much. So you can choose to release the grade immediately after submission. Um, there could be some hiccups with this because a student might accidentally type in a question and spell it wrong and get it wrong, even though the answer itself was right. You may not want to release the grade immediately after submission unless it's all multiple choice. So a lot of times when I do all multiple choice, I show them their grade immediately after each submission. But if I have any short answer questions or paragraph questions or anything else, I usually review it myself before I release their grade. So you have the option of letting them see what questions they miss, letting them see the correct answer, or letting them see the point values. I typically let them see the point values and I let them see the missed questions. I do not put the correct answers on there unless it was something more set in stone, like a quiz or a test. And if they get it wrong, they have to retake a different type of quiz or a different type of test. I try not to give them the correct answers. If they miss a question, I give them the option to go back, look at that question, and correct it with practice problems. But again, this is all just whatever you prefer in your quiz settings. And anytime you make a change to your settings, you have to click Save in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, let me go ahead and make that a quiz so I can show you something else you can do. So once you've made this a quiz, you are able to create an answer key. To make an answer key, you have to click on the question. You can't really have an answer key for your name or an answer key for a story because everyone's story, everyone's name is going to be different. You know, this question, who was the first president of the United States, I can have it grade that because there is a correct answer. I'm going to go to the bottom where it says answer key. I'm going to click answer key, and I'm going to give this question 1 point. You can make it as many points as you want. And then I'm going to select which person is the first president of the United States. So George Washington is correct. And after I have made my answer key, I know which one's right, I have the points, I'm going to click done. Now, when that student submits that form, it's going to tell me automatically if they got it right or not. On this one, I'm going to click my question. I'm going to go to answer key. I'm going to make this, I don't know, say there's 3 answers. Say I want 3 answers, 3 points. They have to give me 3 fruits. So I'm going to select all of the things that are fruit. Same thing down here. I would select all that's correct. Down here for short answer text, you can put some options in there as an answer. For a short answer text, if you're creating your answer key, you can click your answer key and give it however many points you want, 1 point. And you can add a correct answer. I honestly have not counted how many llamas are in this picture, but say there are 15 llamas. That's probably not true. Say there's 15 llamas. Well, you can put 15, the number 15, as a answer. But what happens if they spell the answer and it tells them they're wrong? You can add another correct answer and actually spell 15 out. Well, what happens when they spell 15 out, but they had a capital F instead of a lowercase f? You can add another correct answer of what could be correct. So, just so you know, when you have a short answer question, you might want to put a few different types of correct answers in case they misspell something, or in case they do a capital instead of a lowercase, or a lowercase instead of a capital, or I'm trying to think of some other examples. Um, I remember at one point I did ordering integers from least to greatest, and I would have some students that would have the order correct, but they might have put a comma in the wrong place, or they might have missed a space. I would have to add whatever their answer was into the correct answer bar so that it would show correct. So this can be tricky. This can be something to get used to if you're doing short answer, or if you just choose to grade it yourself. Either way, it's no big deal. Multiple choice, it would grade it itself. You would just have to give the point value, tell me which one's correct, right, and write which one's correct. In a long answer text, when you do an answer key, you can only just give how many points it's going to be. There's like absolutely no way that you are going to put a paragraph on here and have a student write the exact same paragraph. Grade yourself. When you see add answer feedback, that's exactly what it is. You're adding feedback to their answers. So now I'm going to talk to you about how to share this with your class, how to assign the Google form to your class. One option would be to go to send, the blue button in the top right hand corner. If you click send, you can either type each of their emails in here and send it to their email. That's going to be a really long and tedious process. You could copy the link and paste it. This would be helpful if you are using Google Sites instead of Google Classroom. If you're using Sites and you want to put that link into your site, you can just copy and paste the link. The easiest way to get a Google form to your students would be to go to Google Classroom. And I have not updated any classrooms this year. I could show you a classroom from last year. Okay. So let's say we go to Miss Coleman's 7th period class. I am going to go to the classwork tab. Those were some assignments from last year. I'm going to create an assignment. It is an assignment. And this title would be types of questions. And I would give some sort of directions. And then I'm going to add the form from my Google Drive. It should pop up under recent. Types of questions. So I'd click types of questions, insert, and I can choose whether they do lock mode or not. So when I assign this, it's going to pop up in their feed. They'll click the assignment. They know, oh, I have to fill out this form. They'll click the form, fill it out, submit it, and be done. You can choose multiple classes if you want to. Last year, I did a Google Classroom for every single class period. So if you do every single class period, you might choose to check mark all class periods that you're assigning it to. Say you only want to send a form to a handful of people. You can, I'm not going to click on their names, but you can click this, drag down their names, and just select the students who you want to do the form. So then after you have assigned the form and they complete the form, you are going to get some responses. I'm going to show an old response from last year. Okay, this was my operations with decimals treasure quest. I had 60 responses, students who did NTI online. So I could click my responses, and I can't show you a lot for confidentiality, but this gives me a summary of how students did. It gives me the average, median, range. I can see that graph. I could go to the question, and I can look at each question individually. This was question 1. This tells me how many people chose the correct answer, how many chose B, how many chose C, and so on. This gives me an idea. Well, hey, if I had 10 people get that answer wrong, where did I go wrong here? And then you can go to the next question. Question 2, see how many students got question 2 correct, and so on. You can do individual. I'm not going to pull that up. It'll show names. But if you do individual, it'll show a drop-down menu of all the names, all the email addresses that have been selected or that have been turned in. And you go through those email addresses. You can go one at a time and grade it as you go and see their individual responses. So another option for grading and for collecting data for your forms is to use Excel. This green button in the top right says to review responses in Sheets. It's Sheets, not Excel. And it will organize it into a Google Sheet for you. I'm going to show you an example of that in a moment. In this three dots section, one thing that would be really handy, especially say your assignment is due on Friday. Well, maybe not everybody turned it in on Friday. On Friday, after you've graded all of the turned in responses, the people who turned it in on time, you can select this to get email notifications for new responses. So say you will accept late work, but you want to know when it comes in late, you can get notifications for new responses after it's already late. I remember last year when I might have had 5 different forms, and I would grade it. And then I would have to go back and look at it again, and go back and look at it again, and go back and look at it again, because I didn't have this selected. Now, if you select the notifications, it will let you know when they turn it in late so that you don't have to go back through every single form and figure out who added new information a week later. And here's just some other options that you can do. So I went ahead and made an Excel spreadsheet for this so that I could show you, and I blacked out the names. So I'm going to go to this spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that went with my treasure quest. You can see in the spreadsheet, it gives you a timestamp, so you have an idea of what day and what time they turned in their assignments. You can see that these assignments were all turned in different days and different times. I think I gave them maybe 2 or 3 days to do this assignment. So it gives me the score, each student's score. It gives me clue 1, what their answers were, clue 2, what their answers were, clue 3, what their answers were. At the very end, it tells me what their final answer was. I'm going to show you a trick if there's time left over. I'm not sure how much time I've spent at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this trick. You can click on a column and you can pinpoint, say you didn't, if you did not make this a quiz and you have to go back and you have to grade their individual responses, you have an option of going to their email address and, well, it would probably have to be their, if you did not make a form a quiz and you have to go back and grade it yourself, you may want to put an option for students to put their last name. Then you could go to a column and you could sort from A to Z. So your students would be in alphabetical order. If you have your students in alphabetical order, you could grade easier from this spreadsheet. If you had a short answer question, kind of like this one, which location is the treasure located? If it was a short answer question and you're wanting to know what students got that right, you can right click and scroll down to something called conditional formatting. If you go to conditional formatting, you can look for any answer in this column where the text contains this or it does not contain this. An answer that starts with this letter or this number, or a text that ends with this letter or this number, or a text that is exactly this. I might say I want to see a text that contains the answer, which was Miller's Market. And then I can click done, and it has highlighted all of the Miller's Markets for me, so I know which ones are correct. Say in this question, I could do conditional formatting, and I'm looking for text that is exactly 25 and 21/100ths. And click Oh, it can't be exactly because it has more to the answer. So let me change that to text. Um, we'll say text that contains 25 and 21 hundredths. So that's going to show me everyone that got that question right. This would be helpful more if you had a short answer question where you're looking for a particular word in the answer. A student could have worded their answer differently. Say you tell a student to write their answer in complete sentences. Well, they might write their sentence 100 different ways, but they could still have the correct answer. So you could quickly find which sentence has the correct answer and go from there. Because if their sentence doesn't have that word at all, you automatically know that answer was wrong. So this is just an option for you to use if you want to use it to grade. My husband uses it a lot when he's dealing with equations, trying to figure out who included the correct number with x or who had the correct slope, things like that. I do believe that is everything. All right, if there is time, I'm going to show you one last thing. And this is more for my math and science teachers who are watching. If you want to add a question, you have many options for add-ons. One type of add-on that you can include to your computer, but also include to the students' Chromebooks. If you include Equatio, there are many other options with math and science that you can do with your questions, and many other options that students can do with answering the questions. If students have Equatio set up on their Chromebooks, I'm going to show you the options that they have. If you have Equatio on your computer, I'm going to show you options. I've already added Equatio onto mine, and Equatio for Chromebooks, Equatio for Google Forms is this blue button by the questions and the answers. So I'm going to click that blue button, and Equatio is going to pop up on my screen. Oh, it's kind of hidden by, let me hide this. So this is the Equatio tools on my screen. I think there's more over here, but that's hiding it. One option is to include a graph in your question. Say I wanted to include a graph like y equals 2x plus 2. This is going to create the graph for me. It could be any graph. It could even be a specific point. I think I can add another one. Say I want to include the point parentheses 0, comma 2. And it's also going to create a point on that graph. I could insert this graph into my question and ask a question about this graph and have students answer a question about this graph. That's a student option. These are all options of things that students can use if they have access to Equatio on their Chromebook. Say a student comes across a problem and you want them to work out their answer. They can draw their answer into their Chromebook. Say it's really hard to show 2x squared plus 2x plus 8, and it's hard to put 2x squared into the computer. They could draw 2x squared, and it recognizes their handwriting and puts it nice and neat on the screen. Say they don't know how to put a mixed number in as their answer. Say they had a mixed number like 2 and 1/2. They could do 2 and 1/2 on here, and it'll show 2 and 1/2 neatly on their screen. So if they have a hard time typing in their math problems, they can do it using this handwriting. Say you can't do a greater than or equal to sign on your computer, but you could draw in greater than or equal to on here, and it'll show on the screen. So there's a lot of handy things they can do with their handwriting. You can even have them show their work. Say they're doing an order of operations problem, and they have a problem that says 2x plus 2 equals 16. They can show that they're subtracting 2 from both sides. Oh, don't want to do that. Show that they subtracted 2 from both sides, and then they ended up with 2x equals 14. And then they divided by 2. See how bad that 2 was, but it still recognized it. And get an answer of x equals 7. And they can circle their answer. And then they can insert their answer into their short answer question. And that got all wacky. I could have fixed that. For science teachers, this does include the periodic table. You can include the periodic table, or they can actually click on the elements. It has a scientific calculator included that you could use. Molecular viewer. You could select what kind of a molecule you wanted to use. I don't know how that would work. I'll show you a molecule of NaCl. Not sure how it works. Students could insert their math space. They could Students could work out a problem or graph something and then insert that math. Let me see. Oh, I don't know. They could use that to help them with working out problems and then turn in their work through that. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned some more things about Google Forms, and I hope that you found things that would be more useful for you for this school year. If you have any questions about Google Forms, or if there's anything you would like me to elaborate, or anything you would like me to help you out with, you're welcome to reach out to me at kayla.coleman@greenup.kyschools.us. I will help you out the best that I can, and we can just talk through what you're thinking about doing and go from there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. All right, so this is the end of my PD video. I hope you guys enjoyed learning some new things about Google Forms. If there's anything that I can help you with as you're creating your new Google Forms, you're welcome to reach out to me at kayla.coleman@greenup.kyschools.us. Hope you guys have a good start to the school year. And I don't even know what to say. All right, that's all I have for this PD. If you guys have any questions about Google Forms or anything that you need help with in setting up your own Google Forms for this coming year, you guys are welcome to reach out to me at kayla.coleman@greenup.kyschools.us. If not, I hope you guys have a great year.